we've had our memories wiped. The reason that they're leeching into each other is this timeline is coming to an end. They want the truth to come out, so it brings everything down, because they want to bring all the governments of the world down, which is what, they can't bring in the one world government until all the world governments are discredited as being totally incompetent. They are all children of the false god. You and me, this is not our home.
Okay, welcome to the Stellify Podcast. Today, I'm really excited because I've got my good friend Lawrence on the podcast this evening. Lawrence is a gentleman that came to my pub during the crazy period, and he did an amazing presentation on the Mandela Effect. And we also, when I was with the Drake Michigan Project, we did a podcast which was banned on YouTube very, very quickly. But we deep dived a lot on the reality that we're in, and it was fascinating. We discussed a lot about the fact that we're the fallen angels and that we're trapped here and things like that. So we're gonna get stuck into hopefully some of those conversations. But I believe we're gonna start with some Mandela Effect. Is that right, Lawrence?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thanks for the invite. We were going to cover the Mandela Effect last time, but it was all, off the top, by the seat of the pants type presentation, so we were all over the place. But, we did cover a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to cover some of the stuff that I did when you owned the pub. So some of the audience will be familiar with some of it, maybe not all of it. But, then we can talk about, why there is a Mandela Effect, what's going on, why is reality being changed, at least for some people. Not for others, and what it all means. So let's start away. Obviously it depends on the age group of the people watching, but I'm sure you've got quite a few old people like me who watch it, and probably some younger people. But one of the most famous comedy duos ever was Laurel and Hardy. They were in the black and white period. I think they've been in silent movies as well, but they were very famous. They came over to the UK. And they had a famous catchphrase where, they were always getting into bother and having accidents and this, that, and the other. And the fat guy on the left, Oliver Hardy, would say to the thin guy on the right, Stan Laurel, he'd say, "Well, that's another fine mess you've got me into." But if you go online now and look at any clip from Laurel and Hardy, and there's loads, they'll never say that. They're always going to say now, and that's another nice mess. Well, in my reality, the word nice was never used. So I did send you an image which showed the big square bit at the front, which says another fine mess. But that particular film doesn't say anything about fine mess. So that's like what's called residual evidence. So it's showing the two realities as it was and as it is. So, and then I've put a little clip in, which you can play later, but obviously people will watch it when it comes up, where you'll see them saying another nice mess.
Well, there's another nice mess you've gotten me into. Yes, ma'am.
And then you got Snow White. I went and saw Snow White myself when I was a kid. Saw it many times. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. There was obviously the Wicked Witch, and she used to look in the mirror on the wall and ask who was the fairest one of all. And it was always her until one time she said magic mirror. But she didn't say magic mirror. She said mirror, mirror. But the actual Disney, if you buy the Disney, on a DVD, it's now magic mirror.
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
And then when we were kids, there was a song that we used to sing as kids, when the Seven Dwarfs used to go down the mine and get the diamonds and the gems and what have you. And we always used to sing the Hi Ho song. Hi ho, hi ho. It's something to work we go. And we always used to think that it was off to work. Everybody thought, and if you ask most people now, they'll say it's off to work we go, but it wasn't. It's home from work. So you can watch the video. I've got them somewhere.
What does it say again, Lawrence? What did it say?
The song. Well, when you play it, people will see. They go, "Hi ho, hi ho." It's home from work we go. So they sing that song when they finish the mining for the day.
Hi ho, it's home from work we go.
Home from work.
It was definitely off to work. It was definitely.
Well, it was when I was a kid, yeah, but no longer. So in a parallel timeline or whatever, the words were wrote differently. And then, when you was at school, you had stories like the Three Little Pigs. Do you remember the Three Little Pigs? One lived in a house made of straw, one made in a house of sticks, and the other made out of bricks. So there's the Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf. The Big Bad Wolf would go to the first house and he'd say to the little piggy, he'd say, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll," what would he say?
"Blow your house in."
That's what he says now, but he didn't used to. It was blow your house down.
Blow your house down, right.
It's blow your house in. It's blow your house in now. And then, of course, you've got Bill Haley, and he had a famous song in the 1950s called "Rock Around the Clock." And of course, it was Bill Haley and his band who were his band? Bill Haley and
the Comets.
That's it, the Comets, yeah. But if you go on live, I've actually got the CD of that. Sorry, the original 45 of that. I haven't got it here with me now, but I showed it at your pub. I brought that sort of stuff along. But now it's always been Bill Haley and his Comets.
No, it's definitely the Comets. Comets, definitely the Comets.
Yeah, and then, when I went to school back in the 1960s, at primary school, every day in assembly we'd be doing the Lord's Prayer. Did you do the Lord's Prayer at school?
Most definitely.
Our Father which art in heaven, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We had it in school every day, and it was "Our Father which art in heaven, blah blah. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses." And that's what they say now. If you go in a church now or go to a funeral, they're still saying that. But if you go to the Bible and look what it says, don't say that anymore. It doesn't say "forgive us our trespasses." It says "forgive us our debts and those who debt against us."
Well, that's very odd.
Which is crazy. Yeah. Of course, in the Bible, I'll cover some of those in a minute, but in the Bible, there's an ark mentioned several times. You've got the Ark of the Covenant, which is not a boat, and you've got Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
But there's another ark. Now, who's that? Whose ark was that?
What, in the Bible?
Yeah, there's another ark.
You're going to have to remind me, Lawrence. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, you've had children, haven't you? You've got children.
Mm-hmm.
Did you used to carry them around in something when they were little? It was a type of basket. What sort of basket was it?
Well, like a Moses basket.
Moses basket, that's it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in the Bible now, it's an ark. Moses was put in an ark in the bulrushes, yeah, in an ark, and that's in the Bible.
Really?
Yeah. And then you've got the, and it's not only on the ones on the online Bibles, it's on all the hard copies. So I've got a Bible here from the year 1900, and everything all the words have changed in the book. And if anybody who's watching this doesn't believe me, and you've got a Bible, then go and have a look, because Ant will show all the, where the verses, where they all are in the Bible in a minute.
Yeah.
And every Bible, all Bibles, written Bibles, doesn't matter how old they are, the words and text and the punctuation has changed. So, and then we got, Moses, back to Moses again, and he was given the 10 Commandments. What were they written on? What were the commandments written on?
Well, they were on tablets, weren't they?
Tablets of stone, yeah. But when you go to the relevant chapter, not tablets anymore, it's tables of stone. Not once, but every time the 10 Commandments are mentioned, it's tables of stone. So it's not just one spelling error. There'll be lots of spelling error, but obviously it's been changed. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then one of these. I'll be going back to the Bible again in a minute. But when you're at Christmas and when you were kids, you used to watch things every year like The Great Escape and The Wizard of Oz. You ever watch The Wizard of Oz?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Judy Garland and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and whoever. There you go. Yeah. Well, now the Scarecrow is actually holding a revolver. And he certainly wasn't holding a revolver. If you watch the movie video clip that Ant will put a link to, you'll see that the Scarecrow is now holding a revolver. And if you buy the movie, if you buy it on VHS or DVD, he's got a revolver. And then you've got the James Bond film, Moonraker, which you've got that character.
I must admit, Lawrence.
What's that?
This particular one, Lawrence, has always blown my mind because it just literally doesn't make sense anymore. The scene doesn't make sense because of this change.
Yeah, so basically the Jaws is trapped under a wheel, and Dolly comes along to help him pull the wheel off ahead, and he smiles at her with his big metal teeth, and then all the music, the love music all plays. And she smiles back. Now, in the original, she's got a mouthful of braces, which is what he loved her because she got the metal in the mouth like here. But now, I mean, I even bought the old a DVD copy of the old What's It, and the metal's not there anymore on her teeth.
Doesn't make sense, that though, does it?
Well, none of it makes any sense. That you can rationalize in a real world, but we're not in a real world. We're in a copy. We're in a fake world, and our world is being merged with other worlds that are running parallel to us. They're leaching into us. Like if you've got two lines of paint and they get very close to each other, the blue will run into the red and the red will run into the blue, and we're getting the timelines of other ones that are running parallel to us. And the reason they're running parallel, the reason that they're leaching into each other is this timeline is coming to an end. We've got a few years left before it ends, and why these timelines are leaching into each other is the gods. Well, they're finished when this timeline ends, and they're trying to hold on to their skins. And whatever they're doing out there, they're doing things which is, maybe firing something into one timeline and it's moving it, whatever. If it was like made of rubber or whatever it's made of in holographic terms, they're leaching into each other. Now, a lot of people say it's CERN and stuff like that, but it's symptomatic of the end of time. And one of the other big things that indicates that time is coming to an end. Let me ask you, somebody put something out of this today, which was that guy who does that program called Pointless, or used to do the Pointless thing. He's got another TV show. That guy was about nearly 7 foot tall. He was saying in the past 5 years, there's only been one band, a new band in the last 20 that formed in the last 20 years. In the top 40, one song in the top 40 in 5 years. Yeah. Now you can turn the clock back for me to any time in the 1960s and read out the top 40, and I'll know a lot of those songs. And then in the late 60s, the 70s, and 80s, I'll nearly know all of them. If you give me a list of what's in the top 20, top 40 now, I won't know any of them, and I won't have listened to any of them for sure. Well, you know that the likes of, you know, I mean, it's pathetic because there's no musicians out there anymore. It's all manufactured music for these, you know, crappy music. It's beyond belief how bad it is. And these things are getting billions of views. And you think, why are people watching this rubbish? You know, I mean, in my era, we had fabulous bands like the Eagles and Pink Floyd and the Beatles, you know, amazing bands and great musicians. And now that's all gone. And there's a reason for that. Now, what do you think it is? Where's all the talent gone?
Well, I was just thinking it was Simon Cowell's fault, to be honest with you, and he's just dumbing everyone down. But it's the music is appalling now. I couldn't bear it.
Well, all the musicians who make it into mainstream, you know, and get to do the big concerts and be on TV and all that sort of stuff, and on the radio, they are all children of the false god. You and me, this is not our home, but it's their home, yeah. And if you're not a child of the false god or false gods, yeah, you're never going to make it big at anything, yeah. If you're not for the dark side, you ain't going to go anywhere. You can make it so you'll make it. It's like a glass ceiling, and that's as far as you're going to go. Doesn't matter how much talent you've got. You know, you're never going to make it into mainstream. And so, this musical talent that people had, writing great lyrics and playing great instrumentals on the guitar and whatever, that wasn't a naturally organic talent that they had. That talent was granted to them by some kind of mind transference. You know, like that. I forget what the guy's name was, but there was some guy who he said sold his soul to the devil to get some guitar skills. Well, that's basically this is how it works. You know,
Robert Johnson.
That was the one. Yeah, this is where they get their talents from. It's not naturally organic. I mean, some of the songs, you listen to some of the songs and you think, that is beyond any human. Like if you listen to Stairway to Heaven, the guitar music on that is it's off this planet, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing. And of course, it came from off the planet. You know, they didn't do it. It came to them. You know, and the same with all these themes you know, you get all these things in movies and say, well, you know, I watched this movie and it's got 9/11 everywhere. Well, the people who did it, the directors and producers of these movies and the actors, they didn't get some directive from somewhere to say you need to mention this and mention that and do this and do that. They're getting it from some kind of download. That's how it ends up in the movies, all this sort of stuff. You know, that's how it gets there. So music is the sign that, you know, it's all coming to the end. And also this technology we've got coming on now with artificial intelligence. Well, Facebook, the whole thing is run, all the admin on Facebook is all run by AI. You know, when they're saying you've been fact-checked and all that stuff. It's not a bunch of human beings checking billions of posts. There's not enough resources to do that. So they've got AI doing it, you know, and you might say there's 100 comments and they put 3. And he won't let you read the rest of them. They've just filtered them all out. And that's AI doing it. And AI is taking over everything now. So, you know, a lot of in the movies now, they're making the movies using the features and faces of the actors, but they're not actually in it. They're just, you know, they're paying them off or whatever because they can. So that's how far AI's gone. And the same with art and things like that. It's all AI. And you see pictures on Facebook now, and you think, that is absolutely amazing. But it was AI that did it. You know, some of these impossible things that you see. It's all coming from AI. But that's where it's going. But it's not for this world. It's to get people into it. Yeah. So that's why everybody, you know, I've got a cell phone here, but the only I don't use it. You know, I haven't got a clue how to use it apart from I can make a phone call with great difficulty, and I can receive a text. And the only reason I bought this phone is when I want to buy something online, the bank sometimes says, "Oh, we need to check who you are." You know, So sometimes you get, click for the bicycles and this, that, and the other, and all the writing, put the writing up, which is so obscure you can't read it anyway, so you get it wrong half the time. And then they send you a text. So I've only got it for that. But most people haven't got it for that. They've got the phone because they're carrying their whole life with them, all their photographs, all their friends' contacts. They use it for the weather, the latest things about their music, their work. They go on holiday, and they're doing, they're having FaceTime on holiday. They can't get away from work. Whereas in the old days, you didn't have to take a mobile phone with you on a holiday, and you could, have a holiday in peace. But that's the way it's going, and it's more and more and more. People aren't going out since the lockdown. Even where I'm in a really remote place now, and we get the Asda van, shopping van, the Tesco van, we've got the Morrison's van, we've got Iceland, we've got all the supermarkets are coming around here delivering people shopping. So people don't even go shopping anymore, and it's getting more and more and more. And they're always looking to recruit more people to do that sort of thing. And all the others, there's so many new parcel companies now. Everything that you normally go down to the shops to buy, you're buying it online. That's why you go to most shopping centres in the town centres now, and they're either charity shops, and even them are struggling. A lot of them are shutting down. And most of the main shops are shut down now because, people, they don't want to go into the shops. They just want to go online and do it. And the pubs are all shut. We've probably got half the pubs or less than what we had 15, 20 years ago. I don't know what the numbers are. You'd probably know that. But there's not many pubs left there. This village I'm in now, there used to be 8 pubs. We haven't got any now. The last one was knocked down, and they built properly. They started building houses there. That's how it's going, And basically, people are living in the technology, and the only final thing will be the transferences of one's mind into the technology, in readiness to leave this place, because this place is closing down.
Is the age of Aquarius something to do with technology? I'm sure I read something.
No, we're still in the age of Pisces, and we won't see the age of Aquarius. We're on the cusp of it, but we ain't going to see it. It's the end is coming. I mentioned in the last video that we did, what Roswell was about was time travelers. The guy in charge of examining the technology concluded that they weren't spacecraft, but they were time machines. And of course, they've captured quite a few of these aliens who are in these deep underground bunkers in the United States, and they've interviewed them, and they've said, we traveled back here to try and change the future because, these people signed up for the metaverse, because this time, this chat we're having now, we may have already done this before, and it's the deja vu. Everybody has some kind of deja vu. I had some today when I was doing something in the garden. I'm sure I've thought about doing that before. So we may have had this chat before, and we failed to leave, but at least we didn't go into the metaverse. We came back to this timeline. But they want as many people as they can to sign up to the metaverse. And the reason for that, which I mentioned last time, was obviously the timeline's coming to an end anyway. The energy that we produce, you and I, are producing the energy that powers the real humans, actually power this entire earth, this entire reality. It's where the energy comes from. But our energy is being siphoned off by what's known as thought forms in the astral. They are siphoning it off and poisoning it, and then they feed that energy to the archons, the gods, so the archons have got poisoned energy, and that's why they can't give it the creative talent in the music industry's gone tits up, is because the gods haven't got any decent energy. So if you don't have good food, you can't work well. If I started feeding you on, cornflakes every day for the next 20 years, it would affect your well-being, wouldn't it? You're not going to be very well. And if I put poison in them as well, you know, which is what this is. It. The energy is poison because we're in an imperfect world to start with. But as time goes by, it becomes more and more toxic. And that's why all the talent's gone in the music and in the movies. They don't make any good movies these days compared to what they used to. The fantastic movies we used to get. Now they're rubbish. You know, you get the odd one that people will like. But it's basically the best of a bad bunch, you know. And if I said to you, you know, just name, you know, I mean, I could, if I was doing a compendium of all the favourite songs, I could list hundreds, but there's not going to be any for the last 20 years. And if I said to you, name 3 classic songs made since the year 2000, off you go. Just three songs in 24 years that you can think of that'll still be being played in donkey's years from now.
I have this conversation even with my 18-year-old daughter. You know, she listens to all of my stuff. I've took her to watch all the, you know, the classic bands over the years because there is nothing to watch now. You know, there's nothing inspiring. It's all dull. It's boring, monotonous. There's just nothing there. There's nothing creative. Like you say, I mean, AI, going back to AI, I mean, we only see what they want us to see in terms of the ability of AI. It's probably 20, 30 years ahead in its time anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if this realm's being operated by bloody AI.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. You know, well, in terms of the, you know, all your so-called world leaders, heads of corporations,
politically,
the military,
yeah,
all the positions of power throughout the entire world, all these individuals, they're all the children of the false god. Yeah, that if you're not a member of that club, you don't get to a position of power. Same with all the politics in the UK and everywhere else. They're all members of the same club. They're not. It's just the masquerade that they're pretending to be in opposition to each other. They're all on the same side. It's your turn, it's my turn, it's your turn. You know, and the people are so stupid that they just think, oh, well, we'll go for Labour now. I mean, I used to be a Labour voter. Oh, now we'll go for the Tories. Oh, yeah, and then it gets so bad that some other party gets quite a few votes. But they just go back and that's what they've done for 100 years, Labour or Tory. That's all we've had. And it's been a shambles, hasn't it? Because it doesn't matter who gets in, they're all controlled and they've all got the same agenda. You know, it doesn't make any difference.
Sorry to interrupt there, Lawrence, as well. But speaking of entertainment, over the past few years especially, it's become darker, hasn't it? I mean, I think there's been moments of darkness over the, you know, since the 80s, you know, when, you know, and I like my rock music, so, you know, they used to say that heavy metal was, you know, and they used to spin those yarns in the 70s and 80s, didn't they? You know, you could play records backwards and it's satanic and this, that and the other. But now you're seeing very, very blatant satanic dark imagery from all entertainers if you're in the mainstream. It's kind of pushed very, very much in people's faces now, the imagery of satanic or Luciferian energy, if you like.
Well,
and it's very obvious.
Satan, or the adversary, you know, who runs this. Yeah, that's what Satan means. It's the adversary who runs this dense reality. Yeah, he controls all the airwaves. It's well known he controls the airwaves. So anybody on television, the radio, media, entertainment, they're all under his control, the whole lot of them, you know. And you might get the odd one who gets through, but you know, even down to things like the weatherman, you know, they're all under his control. It's absurd, but it's true. You know, whatever, you know, even, you know, documentary programs and things like that, and the truth movement. You know, if you want to control the opposition, you need to be the opposition. So anybody who's got, say, anybody who's got 250,000 subs on any channel, you know, they're not working for you or me. You know, they're working for themselves and for the dark side. You know, that's their job. You know, and they may be telling you lots of truth. And they might be telling you all the truth at the moment and say, well, he can't be controlled opposition. Everything he's saying is the truth. But so that's for you to them to build confidence in them. You know, you trust them because they've given you nothing but truth. But then one day they'll try and take you down down the wrong path, and we know what that wrong path is, and that's to go sign up for the metaverse, because that day will come, probably in our lifetimes, where, you know, you're going to have to make some serious choices where, you know, we all know what's coming. You know, the food, you know, the natural disasters, you know, the one world government, you know, the total totalitarian regimes, which is what that will be under the control of the Antichrist. Yeah, and then it's going to be a devastated world where there's probably no food to eat, there's no shelter. Life's going to be really hard, and it'll be very attractive if some smart arses come from, say, they've come from another planet, and you know, come with us, we'll take you to security, you know, and they'll show you around their spaceships, they'll show you all the fantastic technology they've got and what life is going to be like on this other reality. People are going to sign up for it because it's going to look a whole lot better than being here starving to death and everything else. But that is the biggest mistake people can make. When you know that what that is a fate worse than death, then, you know, it's better to choose to die here than to sign up for that. But that's what all your new ages are going to be there. That's where they're taking you. You know, they're taking you to this false reality.
And can I pull back a little bit on what you were saying about the Pied Piper type characters? Now, it is interesting when you look at the likes of Elon Musk, for example, Russell Brand. You know, these characters that you know, they class themselves as alternative media types. Really, I know Elon's got X, but he's you know, people portray him. A lot of people portray him as some kind of savior of free speech and this, that, and the other, but he's not at all. And he's clearly, in my opinion, anyway, one of the people that will lead people a merry dance down the wrong path.
Absolutely, yeah. He's the spokesperson for the metaverse, isn't he? You know, the brain implants and stuff like that. You know,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
You know, I mean, and it's quite interesting that, you know, when you have a dream, yeah, you can have a dream and know that you're dreaming. And I had this dream not so long back, and I was stuck in the dream. I was telling everybody around me I'm dreaming, and I asked them. I think I told you this last time, but I was back in Milton Keynes. I used to work for the post office or the parcel force. You know, when they first set up the part, I worked at the headquarters down there, and I was in this dream, and I found myself back in the building in this dream, and I'm walking down the corridors where all the desks were, and everybody I used to know, and they're all there, and I haven't seen them since 1994, 30 years ago, and they haven't aged a day. And I'm saying to them, I says, "Oh, this is a dream," you know. They all knew me. In fact, one person came up to me and said, "Lawrence, we've got a few messages for you. Can you get back to them?" Which was really weird. So I must have looked like I did then, you know, when I was like in my 30s. And I was saying to them, "Yeah, I'm in a dream, and this is your residual self-image. You know, it's how you see yourself in your prime." And I was stuck in that dream for about a long time. And they wouldn't let me out until I'd been given the message. And I was going to tell somebody, well, you know, who won the FA Cup or something in the 90s. I said, "Put some money on this," you know. I sat down with these guys around the table, and I was chatting to them, and I was saying, "Well, I'm caught in this parallel timeline here. I'm going to give them some information that will help them, what have you." And I said, "What year is it, if you don't mind me asking?" And they said, I forget what year it was. They said something like 2030. And I said, "You what? 2030? And they said, "Yeah, they changed it all." And before I could ask them what was changed, I bloody well woke up.
Oh, no.
So I was going to get some information that was crucial importance. I was in a parallel timeline. I was living the same life, more or less, a few differences, with the same people, the same place, in a different timeline, parallel to this one.
When do you think all this happened, Lawrence? Because I had an awakening of a sort around 2012. That was when I started to see the world very differently to everyone else, that I was mixing with my friends and family, and I was bringing things up to them, and they were thinking I'm mad, you know, and my rabbit hole dives lasted, well, it continues, you know, from 2012. So I think CERN did something around then as well, but you mentioned CERN before, and you don't think CERN was anything to do with any timeline shift, do you?
Well, 2012 is quite interesting because 2012 was said to be the date that the world ends by the Mayans on the Mayan calendar. But the people who worked it out, they were working it on the basis of a 365 and a quarter day year, you know, 365 days, then a leap year every 4. So that's 365 and a quarter days. I haven't got the numbers in front of me now, but I worked it out. And if you worked it out on a 365 and a quarter day year, a 360 day year, which is what the Mayans time, they're on a 360 day year, which pushes the end date further on, and that pushes it down to the year 2040. However, if you read in the Bible, and it says that the days were shortened, it says it in, I think it's in, I'm not sure, I think it probably says it in the book of Revelation. The day, man would suffer if the days were not shortened. So they're shortening the days, and obviously this Mandela Effect's having some impact on it as well. So it may well be, it's going to be before. I think it's going to be before 2040. In our lifetimes, I think this is all going to come to an end, and we may not know much about it. We may find ourselves, in some other parallel timeline. As long as you don't sign up for the metaverse, then you can relax. But if you sign up for that, it's going to be the biggest mistake you would ever make. Because
do you think that's the soul trap?
Basically, they're stealing. They'll be stealing once they've got your consciousness in this new body. They'll be siphoning off the energy directly, because at the moment it's been siphoned off elsewhere, and they haven't got enough to power what's going on. So they'll be siphoning it directly, but all the divinity within you is going to be trapped even deeper. So at the moment, I mean, my understanding of how we got here. Originally, we were all, we were purely spiritual beings. We didn't have any form as such. We were like a ball of light, if you want to call it that. And we gradually fell further and further into dense matter. That was where this is the furthest we've come. But before we got here, we were in an adventure playground on Saturn. Not the Saturn you see in the sky, that's just like a model, but the real Saturn, which was a technological adventure playground. But that was the Garden of Eden, but it was a simulated reality. So that was a simulation. But they had to dumb us down because we were too smart. We were smarter than the actual gods. The gods were defective. They created this place, but they were defective. We weren't. We came to help, and they had to dumb us down, and so they created this reality, which is a dumbed down, reality compared to what we are. So what we're in now is a simulation within a simulation, and the metaverse will be a simulation within a simulation within a simulation. So you're basically going deeper and deeper into the Maya, and it becomes progressively harder to get out. And that's where it's going. And lots of people are going to sign up for it because it's going to be a problem reaction solution. The problem is going to be there's no food, there's no shelter, there's no work, there's no quality of life. And they're going to offer you all these things and all sorts of Wizmo gadgets and powers that you don't have now, like, be able to read people's minds and, all that sort of stuff. People are going to sign up for that, but it's going to be a big mistake.
Yeah, it reminds me of that movie Inception, the way you see it's going deeper and deeper into that, and into the different dreams that you're in. I mean, in terms of the Gnostic way, it sounds quite Gnostic in what you're saying, really. You know, the demiurge and the archons are jealous of the divine sparks on the planet. That's why they want to keep us in fear, and they want to feed off our negative energies and keep us in this loop, if you like. So that's quite Gnostic, that, isn't it? What you're saying there?
Well, yeah. I mean, going back to the Cathars in the 12th, 13th century, they knew this was a fake world. They knew that the god of this world was a totally insane, basically. And it says it in some of the forbidden scriptures, the ones that didn't make it into the Bible. It tells you that the god of this world is off his rocker. He's an insane psychopath. Which he is. You look at how this world's run; it's totally insane, and they wanted nothing to do with it, and they'd formed their own beliefs, so to speak. But the Catholic Church, they weren't having it, and the Cathars were growing in numbers, and so this is what all the Crusades were about, and the Inquisitions. This was to exterminate the Cathars, and many of them burned to death, and they just pushed them over a cliff into a bonfire. And they burned to death, but they would choose that over, this reality. They knew, because the information was still around them. The true information gets passed down through the generations. But all we've got is, we're the goldfish in the goldfish bowl. So we can only discern the information that's out there and make your own judgment as to what's important. But logic tells you that this world isn't getting any better, is it? It's just on a downward trend. It's a downward spiral where everything's getting worse. Everybody's getting poorer. Everybody's got less money, less time. Everybody's stressed with one thing and another. And they're just making life a misery, aren't they? I mean, you can't. Everything that you do is all this technology. Password for this, password for that. What's your username? Wrong username. You need a new password. Sorry, you can't have that one. There's no capital letters in it. So you put a capital letter. Sorry, it's not long enough. So you change, you change it about 6 times, and then it says, sorry, you've had too many goes. We're logging you out. Come back in 2 hours. You're trying to buy something that was important. Or you get the traffic lights coming up and the bicycles, and there's one where there's a little tiny spoke of a wheel in one little corner of one of these squares, and you miss that. Sorry, you've had 3 goes, come back in 2 hours. I mean, it's deliberately done to wind us up. I've got a printer here. I've got a Hewlett Packard printer, and every time I want to print something, do you know what I've got to do? I've got to remove it from the system, and then add it back to the system. Otherwise, it don't work. Every time I want to print anything, So I printed something off today, so I had to shut it all down. Remove it and add it. Remove it and add it every time. And then listen. If I get this phone, if this phone rings, I'm thinking, well, how does it work? How do I answer the phone? Because in the old days, there was a button on it, and you press the button to answer the phone, a green button or something. And on this bugger all there. And now I've learned that you have to flick it upwards to answer the bloody phone. They don't tell you, and then you try to do something on it, and it goes on to another page. You think, well, how do I get back to where I was? I had to go online to find out how to send something on this, because it doesn't say the word send. It's got a little arrow, which means send. But unless you know what the little arrow is, you're shafted, aren't you?
And isn't it fascinating that President Nixon in the back in the day was able to use an analog phone to talk to the people that landed on the moon?
Well, he did, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what is out there? The whole notion of time and space is not real. It just appears real. We are interactive holograms ourselves in a holographic reality, but we're actually two-dimensional beings with the illusion of the 3D, of the illusion that you're traveling somewhere, of the illusion that there's something out there and there's nothing out there, and it's like, people strive to, they say, yeah, you've got to raise your vibration and stuff like that to get out of here. That isn't going to work. To get out, you've got to look inwards and hate this place. If you love this place, you're guaranteed to come back. The love and light, as pronounced by the New Ages, is just going to keep you here. So all you can really do is do the best for yourself and your family. Put yourself in a bubble. Not saying you can't enjoy yourself, but be aware that it's all going to end soon. Making long-term plans are pointless to me. This T-shirt was made by a friend of mine in a group where it's an Escape the Matrix group. Howdy McCoskey. He's got a thing called where it's called On Locals, where we meet up once a month or whatever. They've had a gathering in Copenhagen, I think it is, this weekend or a weekend just gone, to do whatever. I don't know exactly what they're doing. And one of the people in the group, she lives in Athens. She works at the Acropolis, dealing with the artifacts, and now she, doesn't see much of the point, but it's the job at the end of the day. And she made me this T-shirt, and I sent her some oils, because I've got loads of oils, and she says, well, I've got to give you something in return. So all I could think of was a tip. So I said, send me a T-shirt with these words written in ancient Greek. So this T-shirt, guess what it says?
Go on, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the song I sent you last.
It's the what,
Animals.
Sorry?
The Animals.
Okay.
One of those great songs from the 1960s by the Animals. They had 3 really good songs. The Animals. We got to get out of this place. That was the biggest hit in the Vietnam War. That was the soldiers. That was when they used to go to the social clubs. That was the song they always used to play. We got to get out of this place.
This one here.
No, that's the Mamas and the Papas.
That one there. We got to get out of this place. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the song. That's what it says on my shirt in ancient Greek.
Okay.
And yeah, so sorry, where was we?
So how did you obviously you've spent a lot of time researching over the many years, Lawrence. When did you come to this realization? I'm not going to say conclusion, I'm going to say realization of the reality that we're in. What did something dawn on you, or did you come across something that just resonated? How did it work?
Well, I used to co-present a really big channel, or most people didn't realize how big it was. There's a lady called Lori Frary who lives in Florida, and we put out several hundred hours of content, and our main audience was on the podcast. And so Lori tells me we've had about 15 million downloads on the podcast. So if we'd have charged 50 cents a go, we might have made some money. But we used to go out. We were like a cult following on that. But the other flat earthers used to hate us because we were telling them about the real flat earth. But now it's, Laurie and I concluded when we were examining the anomalies between the ball earth and the flat earth, neither of them fitted the reality that we'd come to conclude. It had to be a simulated reality. Now, her version of the simulated reality is different to mine. And we sort of fell out, not in a nasty sort of way. We just drifted apart, and she does her own thing now. But yeah, that was it. It was, and then you find a group that interests. So then I found out about the Wes Penray papers, and I was reading all that, and he's putting a lot of truth out, but it's like, it's like you find out people who are putting a lot of truth out, but they're not giving you the whole truth. It's controlled opposition, but at a higher level, and that's what happens. And eventually you'll find what you think is the pinnacle of truth, which is where I think I'm close to at the moment. Just a question of finding the way out of here. It doesn't worry me. because we all have our guardian angels. I was talking about all the near misses I had. Did I mention that in the last podcast? I can't remember. All the near misses I had, which you just couldn't make it up. I was in America, and you get all these series of coincidences, all these things that happened to save your life. So I was in America in 2002, just after 9/11. It took ages to get through, the checkout at the airport, and it was very hot. And I'd got a hire car booked, just a regular saloon, and it was the Alamo car hire. So me and the missus at the time and my kids, we all trundled off. It was boiling hot, and we got to the car hire place. And I goes in, and the guy says, I said, I've got a car book, give him all my details, passport, whatever I needed to show them. And the guy says, I can't do the accent. He says, I'd like to offer you an upgrade. It's a bit Irish, isn't it? I'd like to offer you an upgrade to this fabulous V8 Jeep for an extra $117. And I thought, well, I'm not paying that. So as a laugh, I just said, I'll tell you what, not thinking he's going to accept. I said, I'll give you $17. And to my great surprise, he says, okay, you did it. And no, God knows why he did, because he's supposed to charge me 117. So that was freaky to start with. Anyway, so then we get over to this Jeep, and it was brand new, top of the range Jeep, and it had got 54 miles on the clock, delivery mileage, whatever it was. The temperature inside was 117 degrees, so it owned all the bloody windows or whatever. And I'm in this car, and I think, oh shit, it's an automatic. And I couldn't get it out of the compound. Because I never drove an automatic. And this guy says, this American guy, sat in a chair by the gate, he says, so what do you need to do? So he says, pretend you've only got one leg and use your right foot, one to stop, one to go, like on Dodgers, stop and brake, one accelerator and brake. So that was it, yes. So, and of course I've got a map. So I've got the map because I'm going over to the accommodation, which was a fair way away, over where all the theme parks are and stuff, because I was taking the kids to all the Disney places. And of course, so it gets onto the highway, but the highway, they've got new turn-off points. So they got the old turn-offs and the new turn-offs. So I wasn't sure which was which. So I got the map in front of me. So I'm bombing along at about 70, and I'm thinking, I'm going to have to slow down a bit to have a better look at this map. So my foot went for the brake, for the clutch, because I thought, I'm back driving a normal car. My foot went for the clutch, and it went for the brake. And this car went from 70 to 0 in about 2 seconds flat. And my life flashed before me. I looked in the mirror, and I could see this big white car. It was a Ford Lincoln, great big taxi, coming up behind us, and they'd got no chance. And it went pow, right into the back of me. The car was a complete write-off. All the front end of this taxi was strewn all over the motorway. And yet, so I'm on high, and the kids are in the back, and this is in the front. Nobody is hurt, no whiplash, nothing. And I get out of the car and go and examine the back of the car, thinking, shit, there must be some damage here. They're going to put in an insurance claim. There was a tiny scratch on the tow bar thing that I got on the back. One tiny scratch. Anyway, so so if that guy hadn't persuaded me to have the car and give it for $17 instead of 117, I'd have been in another car where we could have been seriously injured, because this Jeep was built like a bleeding tank. The car had come into us then, it would have been holding my kids' car. It could have been killed. We could have been seriously injured, but we're all unscathed. And then, along comes the policeman. Did you ever watch Smokey and the Bandit, and the guy with the little round glasses? Burt, whatever his name, Burt Reynolds and what have you, Smokey and the Bandit, and this guy's chasing after him all around there. Well, this guy comes in those typical police cars, those blue police cars with the red lights and what have you, and he pulls up on the grass verge, and I'm there, and he's taking my statement and what have you. And of course, he's already took my side. I haven't said hardly a word. And he said, well, he says, yes, that we've had a bit of trouble with that taxi company. They're a bunch of hillbillies, you know. He said, we've had problems with them before. And of course, so easily, the sun's shining onto his glasses, they can't see his eyes. And he's leaning off over one side of the police car. I haven't even known them. They'll be chatting away. And of course, another taxi comes along because all these tourists had to get their baggage out of the boot and move to another taxi. Poor woman in the taxi that crashed into me probably felt she fell asleep. She wouldn't know what had hit her. So they bring another taxi and they load everything up and everybody gets in the car. And the taxi reverses into a lamppost and smashes all the back end in the car. And the copper leans over to me. He says, "What did I tell you, sir? We've had trouble with them before." And it was weird. And then he gave me my statement to sign. And his name was Officer Crapper. Unbelievable. But I've had other, motorbike accidents. West Germany hit a lorry head on. Yeah, walked away with a few scratches on my back and my bum. And then another time when I lived in Stockport, I came off a motorbike, hit some diesel, and I went through a solid brick wall at the bottom. My body went right through it, totally destroyed the wall, and I dusted up, not a mark on me. And when you think back, there was somebody protecting me when those things happened. Unbelievable. Yeah. And that's because real humans, in my opinion, have the guardian angels. They're not guardian angels in that they really care about you. They've been assigned to protect you because you are one of the primary energy sources that powers this reality. You'll have a guardian angel. You'll have had some near misses, chances are, in your life. And the angel was there to, it's like that movie that's called The Adjustment Bureau, where people step in to change the outcome of events. Have you seen that, The Adjustment Bureau?
Yeah, I've had a couple myself where it's sort of like I remember there was an incident in the city of Liverpool once where a friend of mine got set upon by, I don't know, about 6 lads. He was really drunk and he'd said something really foolish and they set on him. He went to the ground and I was like, "Look, lads, leave him alone," and they all come after me. And it's weird, Lawrence, because I can remember I turned into Prince Nassim Hamed at that point, where every punch, there was about 6-7 lads punching me, but they missed every time. They were hitting the walls. They weren't. I never got hit once. And then this big fella shows up with I remember a big long blonde hair. It was weird. And he came and they all ran off. Yeah. And I'll never forget it because, I should have been battered that night. Yeah. I should have been. Yeah. And it never happened. So I've had a couple of weird things like that's happened.
Yeah, that's it. Well, basically, the angels that protect you. There's good angels and bad angels in the Matrix. The good angels are known as the angels of poverty, and the bad angels are the demons. Yeah. Well, the angels of poverty are like the shepherds. They're protecting their assets, so to speak. They're not going to eat us, but we're actually providing them with food, and so they need to make sure that we see out our time here, wherever that is. It's already been pre-programmed into us to stay here for a given period of time, and if we're not here, then they're going to get an energy shortage, and that's why they protect you. So the angels are not really good, they're just looking after you because you're an asset,
So if
the real angels,
if this reality then is run by a, like you say, a darker god, if you like, so. A demiurge type character, if you want to say, there must be a creator above that. Then there must. There has, so we must come from a more divine kind of creation.
We did. We did. We were asked to come here and help with the creation. But obviously, because we as divine sparks, the divine sparks that we are, it's an energy source. It powers this reality. The demiurge had used all his energy in making the creation. He got no energy left. So he needed us to power it. We feed him now. Without us, this place ends. If we're not here, it all ends tomorrow. So if we all leave, this entire creation ends. That's why they're desperate to keep us here, you know. And one of the reasons that he used to us, we were innocent. We were like children in the spiritual. We were just children at the time, but albeit very powerful. He asked us to help with this creation. So we created all the creatures here. Yeah, he created us, the humans, but all the animals and creatures that we created here, they came from us, the humans. And of course, we got carried away, and we did some very, very bad things. Like, you know, we created animals that would be very ferocious and kill other animals. We created the praying mantis who, after he's made love to his partner, the female eats the male. I mean, this is a perversion that we got involved with, and the demiurge used that as an excuse to trap us here, amongst other things. So when you look at all the beautiful creatures out there, they were done by us, you know, before we fell into this dense reality. It's like when Adam was asked to name the animals, he was asked to name them because he was one of the creators. The person who gets to name something is the person who creates it. That's what happened.
Okay. And it is interesting that this world, as beautiful as it is in many aspects, you cannot have. There's suffering everywhere. Even in the beauty of nature, there is suffering, isn't there? So you can't go through life without it.
Yeah, I know, but it's been programmed into these creatures to do that, and into us. You know, there's little we can do about it. While we're here, you know, we have to eat the food. You know, there's choices of food that you can have, but something's going to have to suffer for us to steal their life energy.
So, Lawrence, if there is a divine creator above this demiurge type God creator, this whatever, why doesn't this divine being step in and just stop this nonsense then?
Well, it probably already has, but you need to know that, you know, we're actually in a black hole projected out into a white hole. So we're two-dimensional in the black hole, projected out to 3D in the white hole. Because we're a hologram ourselves, it appears real. But one day there is 1,000 years here. So they will put something into motion here, you know, and if it takes an hour there, you know, it's going to take 60 years to manifest here. So the plans have already may have been put into action, but we won't see them because we're running you know, we've got time here. You know, one day there is 1,000 years there. Your entire life, you've only been alive in real terms by a couple of hours or so, yeah, in real time. You know, but it all seems real. But then, you know, you go to these people who go these near deaths, and their entire life flashes before them in an instant, because that's all it is. You know, you might already be out of here, but you're going to have to stay till the end of the movie. You can only view this one movie one frame at a time. You know, it's like if you look at that picture I sent you of those Earths lined up, one of the last pictures I sent you. Yeah, I don't know whether you've got that handy there. It was.
Yeah, let me bring that up, Lawrence, while you're.
Well, if you bring that up, I'll explain that to you.
Is that the one with all the planets?
No, not the planets, the Earths.
Okay,
you know, the same Earth in a line like a wallpaper of Earths.
I've got it here. Hold on.
One of the last things I sent you.
This one here.
Have you got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Now, up until recently, if you went to Google Maps, yeah, and you zoomed out as far as you can, you would get that, which is like a wallpaper effect of Earths, yeah. And then if you look at that picture I sent you of time and day, as the sun moves across, yeah, at some point it's on both sides, you know, it's on half of the sun's on one side and half's on the other. a bit like Pac-Man, you know. So maybe what this is denoting is like every day is one frame in the movie, you know, moving across. That's what it is. But they've changed that now. So if you go to a Google map now, so I had to dig that out of the archives. If you zoom out now from a Google map, it'll take you to the globe.
Oh yeah, it will, won't it?
Yeah, and then if you look at that time and day, if you go on time and day, showing the sun and moon, you can move it along by an hour. And if you keep moving it along by an hour, eventually you'll have the sun on both ends of the world. Yeah, and it's moving along the wallpaper effectively, you know, because it always comes because the sun itself is a prisoner of the matrix. The sun is part of the matrix. It's a prisoner here itself, as is the moon, as are all the planets that you see in the sky. They're just copies, you know. There isn't really much there.
So, because they all carry their own frequencies, don't they, as well? So, you know, the likes of they say, a lot of people say the Saturn side of things kind of controls a lot of this realm, don't they? By the frequencies, you know.
Well, the real Saturn, yeah, the real Saturn, which with the rings around it. That's where, you know, that's one of the places we came from. The Saturn was the adventure playground where the Garden of Eden was, yeah. And the temptation was to effectively enter a pod and put some, you know, VCR on or whatever the equivalent was, yeah, and come here, which we did, yeah. But they wiped our memory when we, you know, in one of the times when we came back, we had a memory wipe, and we forgot who we were and where we came from. But we're still there. We're still on Saturn in some pod somewhere, asleep. And it's like when I was in the dream, I knew I was in a dream, and they wouldn't let me wake up. I knew I was in my bed, but I couldn't not wake up. Well, it's the same with this. You and I could well be in this pod on Saturn having this dream, and we've been there for, you know, you've been there for 2.5 hours, and I've been there for 3 hours in real time in the pod, experiencing this present life that we're in now. But we can't wake up. They decide when you're going to be waking up. It's a bit like what's his name in Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall. He did the same thing. He sent him to Mars, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's what Saturn is. And of course, the rings of Saturn. Let's assume that we were lobotomized. Your higher self would have been there. Maybe they're still there on Saturn. And the rings there are a force field so that you can't telepathically communicate with them. You know, they're trying to get in touch with you. You're trying to get in touch with them. But you can't, in the scheme of things. You can only do it by going in somehow. But the only way you can communicate going in is to totally disconnect from your love of this world.
Okay, so that's the trick then. That, you know, you are in this reality. You fall in love many times. You know, it could be your parents, it could be your partner, it could be your children, it could be your dog, it could be whatever. You know, you fall in love many times, and that brings attachment, doesn't it? You know, the love brings attachment, because that's where the fear is of losing the love and the attachment that you have for.
It is, you know. I mean, I've got friends on Facebook who've recently had children, and I'm thinking, you know, if you knew what you were doing, there was no way you would want to bring any children to be brought up in this world that we see today. Because what you're doing, you know, you've got kids, I've got kids. We're just bringing another prisoner into the prison. That's what we do when you have children. You know, you're bringing more prisoners in. That's why the Cathars didn't, you know, frowned upon having children, because they knew they were bringing another prisoner here. They did have some children, obviously, but they were wiped out in the end by the, you know, the Crusades, so to speak, sent out by the Catholic Church. You know,
could it be possible that so a loved one finds a way of getting out of this situation, this trap, gets back? Are they able to guide loved ones back home?
Well, the problem is You see, the only part of you that can leave here is the part that came in, which is the divine spark. The rest of you, the flesh and blood body, and the soul, because the soul isn't you. The soul was given to you by the demiurge. You know, the soul contains matter or energy. It's an energy body, and it contains some of the divine matter from the true light. But that was what he stole off Sophia. He stole her energy from him to fashion all these souls. But when you came into this reality, into the early stages of it, you didn't have a soul. You know, you were given, you chose a soul, you were given a soul. So when you leave, you won't have the soul. That will be taken apart. You know, the energy can be still returned to source, but the matter can't leave. The only, because it's like in a black hole, nothing can escape. Not even light can escape a black hole. The only thing that can escape a black hole is pure essence from the true light. And so when you get back out there, then, and you've been out, let's say you've been out there a day back in the real world, well, that one day is 1,000 years here. So you're not going to be able to help your loved ones back here because they'll be long gone. You know, when you've been out a year, it's been 1,000 years here. One day there's 1,000 years here. It's what, you know, Mary Magdalene asked Christ, you know, when he came back from the dead, so to speak, and she was asking him questions. And he told her, she said, what's the time conversion, or words to that effect? And he said, one day is 1,000 years. Because basically in a black hole, time stands still relative to those that are outside. It's so slow compared to outside that you can have 1,000 years to them having a day. So any help that comes from externally, you know, it's going to take time because it's going to go through the black hole.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and get in here.
You mentioned Sophia then as well, Lawrence. You mentioned Sophia. Yeah. So my understanding, I've been listening to a lot about regarding John Lamb Lash lately. You know, who wrote, and you probably read his book. I don't know. I've not read his book yet.
I've heard some of his stuff. Yeah. And he mentions obviously that Sophia is this earth also, you know, so she was tricked, if you like, and there was a mistake where the demiurge and the archons were born from that mistake, but she's waking. So if that's the case, like you say, time doesn't exist in effect, it's an illusion. So she's probably already awoken and dealt with it, and we're just having to experience it. Yeah, she did. I think her body did form part of the earth. You know, you can look at some of these old maps, and you know, is it like a princess or somebody, you know, shaping a continent? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, she basically she was the feminine counterpart of Christ. You know, typically like husband and wife type thing. But she decided to create of her own account, and as such, she had effectively an abortion, which was the demiurge, you know. And then she breathed into him, and when she breathed into him, he stole a lot of her light, and then he got all his power, and then he thought he was the most powerful being there, and he totally embodied himself in this creation, and what he used for the creation was an old creation, where, you know, failed creations of the past, and in doing so, he split himself into two, into the good and the bad. So that's why in the astral, you know, the higher astral is the good energy, and the lower part is the negative energy. The good angels, the bad angels, the good archons, the bad archons. You know, and so you've got Lucifer, who plays God from the fourth dimension. You know, God meaning good, and the devil, take the D off, you've got the evil, who's in control of the dense matter. And that's how it works. He looks after this side, Lucifer looks after the other. Lucifer's got ultimate control. But the demiurge was split into two, you know, because it was fission. You know, that's how it worked. And that's why we're in a duality. If you do some good, somebody else is going to balance it out and do something bad. That's how it normally is. You know, if you breathe in, I guarantee that you're going to breathe out, aren't you? afterwards. Yeah, everything has a counterbalance. You know, you do some good, somebody else will do some bad. You know, and that's the way it normally is. But now we've got an excess of evil because we're coming towards the end of time. We've got an excess of negative energy, and if you put, you know, an excess of negative energy into a computer motherboard, you know, you can see videos of it. It melts the motherboard, you know. So if you think like this is the machine that we're in, it's going to melt. So it's depicted as being destroyed by fire, you know, in the Illuminati card, you know, and then winds back. Where it winds back to, who knows, you know. But, you know, I don't think this timeline that we're in now is more than a couple of 100 years, because there is no proper history, you know. You know, when you go and look at your family history, see how far back you go. You're not going to get more than 200 years back if you're lucky. You know, you've got all these things online now. You know, ancestry.com and whatever. You can go back. You're not going to get very far. And yet we're supposed to have been here for, you know, millions of years. But there's no history for the individual. It's absurd, isn't it? Yeah,
crazy,
it's because we've only been here a couple of 100 years. There's different timelines, you know, and maybe they have to start redoing a timeline because they've run out of energy and they start a fresh one.
You just reminded me of a question I was going to ask you earlier on, actually. So near the beginning, you mentioned that there could be people on different timelines to us, and I recognise that. I recognise that. I mean, I was at a pub last night with a very old friend of mine, known him a long, long time, and I started talking about my reality, if you like, the things that I've experienced over the past 10 years, if you like, 10, 12 years. And I don't think he knew where to look, to be honest with you, because he's like, you know, it's like, that doesn't exist. What my experiences that I've had doesn't exist for the majority of people that I know. You know, they'll think I'm like completely off the wall. You know, it's the NPC. Well, I'm not saying he's an NPC by any way, you know, because I don't like to, you know, but they're just not on the same timeline. There has been a split at some point.
Yeah, you know, definitely. Yeah, round about the 2012, because I had the same thing. I was out walking the dog the other day, and this guy walk up to me and starts saying, "Hello, Lawrence, everything about me." I've never met the guy in my life. And he says, "You know me, don't you?" I says, "I've never seen you before in my life." He says, "You work with me at the petrol station." You know, when all my businesses went to, so I did the odd job here and there. And I worked at a petrol station. I says, "No, I don't know you." And I told him all the people I remember exactly who I worked with at the petrol station. You know, my workmates who were there for whatever, 12 months. I said, "I've never seen you before in my life." And a woman in the park, you know, this woman comes up and says hello to me. I've never seen her before in my life. And it's, you know, it's like, what's going on? Who are these people? You know, it's weird. Well, what you're saying rings so true. Yeah, parallel timelines. You know, I think we've been switched from the one we were into somewhere else, and it can just happen. Like if you watch, you must have watched it. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. Go and watch Westworld. You know, so these people think they're real, but they're robots. You know, but then they get shot up or raped or whatever, and then they take them back and they're rebuilt and reprogrammed, and then they go back to the start where they were before, doing exactly the same things. Yeah, and they don't know anything about it. They don't know that they've been shot or anything. They don't know how they died, and they keep going round and round and living this same life. You know. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's interesting that, and there's a show. One of my favourite shows is Fringe. I don't know if you ever watched Fringe, and there was a parallel universe with Fringe. Yeah, it was really good, but they were able to jump from one parallel to the other at some point, and it was bleeding in. There was the parallel universes were bleeding in and causing a problem. But yeah, I can see the difference in me personally from 20. The moment I started to wake up, if you like, in 2012, I'm a very, very, very different person. My experiences and my outlook on this reality is totally different. Totally different.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, you become somebody else, don't you? You look back and you don't really like who you were in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've become more. It's like, I mean, the last few years now, I found myself, you know, caring about worms and slugs and bees and insects in the house. I've got to let them out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a wasp, and I don't particularly like wasps, but so I put a glass over it to try and get it, and I knocked one of its legs off. It just fell off, and I was mortified that I knocked the leg off a wasp. Whereas the old me would give a toss about a wasp.
Yeah.
And I've been doing the garden recently, and I'm very carefully, you know, taking the worms and putting them somewhere else, so I'm not slicing through them with my shovel. So there is something going. There's something happening. I don't know exactly what it is, but when you're dreaming, you know, at some point when you're dreaming, you'll know you're dreaming, and when you are, you're going to have some control of what you do. Go and find a mirror and have a look who's looking back at you, because it probably won't be the face you've got here. It'll be somebody else. It's like, you know, if you were going to play the game of Sims, I've never played Sims, but you know, one of these computer games where you have families and things like that,
mm-hmm.
and you can pick the face that you want for the individual. You can pick the shape of the eyes, the shape of the nose, the shape of the mouth, what the ears are like, the hairstyle, and everything else like that.
Yeah.
Before you came here, you may well have picked several avatars that are slightly different, you know, but similar, you know, what you like, you know, and those were the avatars that you have. So in your dreams, you know, if you're in a parallel dream, which I think we are, because I don't remember doing any of these things in my dreams in my real life. You know, I've had relationships in dreams, you know, but not in this life. But I looked in the mirror twice and I saw somebody that wasn't this face. It was totally different, you know, 25 as well, you know. So I'm 66 now. But if I look in the mirror in a dream, you see your residual self-image. I think when you're dreaming, you're effectively in the etheric world or the astral world. And if you can look in a mirror, you're going to see the you, because the aging is an illusion here, you know, because your etheric body doesn't age like this body does. You know, it's a bit of a trick.
Yeah, well, the dense material world, isn't it? That's again is Satan's world, isn't it? The adversary.
Yeah, it's very, very dense. This is actually hell. You know, there is nowhere worse than this in all of reality. We are in hell here. You know, obviously there are different gradations of hell, and according to, you know, the type of individual you are, if you actually come back here, it will determine, you know, where you're going to end up, I would imagine. You know, but the really evil people are going to end up in really evil places, you know.
I don't doubt that either. And there's an image you sent me earlier on, Lawrence. I just want to bring it up because I found it quite interesting, really.
Yeah. So we're in the orange sector. Okay. This is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and where we were was on the outskirts of this, in a simulated reality on Saturn. Yeah. And we were tempted to come here, eating the fruit, you know, the forbidden fruit. The forbidden fruit was coming into dense reality. So we're in a pod on the periphery of this reality, on the periphery of the orange, yeah. And we've got a headset on, or whatever the equivalent is, and we're asleep, and we're here, and it feels real, you know. And sometimes your dreams are as real as this. I've had dreams that are as real as this. I've tapped on a table, on a wooden table, and it was as hard as this one here was.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we are. Whereas the true kingdom, we are immortal beings. Yeah, we are creator beings out there. Christ is your father. Christ and Sophia created you. Yeah, Christ was the male counterpart. Sophia was the female, and we are the children of Christ. Yeah, Christ is not the son of God. He's the son of the monad, of the ultimate, the monad who's always been there. We've always been there. The divine light that we are has always been existed, but we are an offshoot. We're an emanation of Christ,
mm-hmm.
you know, and so we have a connection to him, you know, when we remove all the baggage that we've got. You know, to get out of here, you've got to travel light. You've got to get rid of all your baggage. You know, to get out of here. That is where we are. But the problem is that, you know, all your ascended masters, the best they're going to do is get to the outskirts of the matrix, the higher parts of the matrix, where it's all peace and love and light there, but it's boring. And ultimately, they come back down here because you know, they're bored out of their skull. They're not getting out. That's what the Kundalini is. You know, Kundalini activates the sixth sense, where you get all these powers. You know, and people look up to the ascended masters, but they don't. They're still here, aren't they? They didn't get out. And that's because they took the powers of the sixth sense. It's the seventh energy center, the one that's in connection with the light purple area, you know, where you're connecting to your higher self. That is where you want to be activated, but it's very hard to do.
Are we talking chakras there, Lawrence?
Yeah, the seventh chakra. The six chakras, you know, obviously the base chakras are all serving the
lower
demiurge, you know.
Yeah.
But the seventh chakra, you know, they're obliged to give you some way of getting out of the seventh chakra. Is the communication device. It's not the pineal gland. It's not the pineal gland. It's a transmitter, but it's the seventh chakra, which is the spiritual connection to your higher self. And once you've made that connection, it's like holy matrimony. It's the marriage of who you were separated from. You know, you've got a feminine counterpart on the outskirts of this matrix, maybe on Saturn. You know, nobody knows for sure. And they're waiting for you, you know. And they might only have been waiting a couple of days in their time. It's not been a long time. But for you, it could have been thousands of years. So they're waiting for you to come home and reunite you. But you know, that's the hard thing, you know, reuniting, because you're addicted to the game. You're in the game and you're addicted to the game. You've seen that game called, you know, on Black Mirror, where the guy puts the thing on his head and he persuades his mate to go in it. And then in this game, he becomes a woman and his bloke's a man, and they're having sex together, you know, in a video game. That's where technology is going. That's what they were doing, you know, and it's very, very addictive. That's the trap. You know, to get out of here, you've got to give up. You know, you need to want to get out of here more than you want to stay here. You know, if you love this world, then you're going to come back, either here, you know, or the metaverse.
I've got a question for you, Lawrence. There's a gentleman called Tony Sayers. He's got a very popular website, YouTube channel, and a friend. Do you know Tony? Do you know his work?
He's on my list, you know. But he seems a bit. When it comes to this, he seems to be thinking all he's got to do is stand in his sovereignty, and he's going to get to go out.
Well, he mentions about chakras, Lawrence, and he mentions about removal of chakras, because obviously, and I agree to some point where chakras can be used by the archons to feed the energy. So you know, like you're saying, the chakral and the lower chakras are being used against us. But if you're saying we need that, surely getting rid of chakras, if that's at all possible,
if you got rid of
it's
that
a dangerous thing.
You know, you're not going to be able to get out of here. Yeah, you know, if Tony may well, you know, I'm not saying you can't remove it. Maybe you can. I don't know, but they're like energy bodies. But Tony's carrying a lot of anger with him. If you look at, I mean, he's on my friend's page, but he does carry a lot of anger, and he gets really angry with some of the people. He puts these provocative posts out and then argues with people and calls them names and what have you. It's pretty counterproductive, because then, you know, the anger that he has is feeding the entities he proposes and wants to get away from. Anger is a good source of food, but he gets very angry. And chakra removal, no, you know.
Yeah,
you know, you don't know what you're getting into, do you? Whether you can remove them, I don't know, because they say that they're doing it, you know, remotely, and I am skeptical. I'm not saying it's impossible, but these people who talk about remote healing, well, maybe it's possible. I don't know, but I mean, I do healing with herbs and stuff like that, and I get real results. And whether you can do it remotely, maybe it's possible. The mind's a very powerful tool, so maybe you can. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen someone who's ill who has been healed remotely.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a good question. I mean, I know that I've done Reiki and I've given distance Reiki, but I can't be sure if it's given the client anything. I mean, I've had feedback, but I can't be sure. They maybe experienced something from it, but it's just very difficult to show.
I've tried some of these things. So I did Reiki. I had Reiki done to me once, and it felt like somebody had put a torture thing on my head, a clamp, and then started tightening it up, on the top of my skull. Yeah, it was like somebody was, like you had a thumb screw or something like that. It's like it was on the top of my head. And then I attended a drumming session where everybody was doing this drumming, and I had this same thing of this tightness on the top of my head. So I, personally, I'd stay away from them because for some reason, they don't agree with me.
Yeah. You sent another image. Sorry, Lawrence. You sent another image which is very interesting as well, and that's this one.
Yeah,
the land
so
of,
you look
the
at
land
that,
of Nod.
Those are the planets. Yeah, so the land of Nod's in the Bible, and if you read the Bible, I think the land of Nod's only mentioned once, and that it says Cain who murdered Abel, was sent to the land of Nod. Yeah, well, the land of Nod is Earth, where everybody's asleep. Yeah, everybody's asleep here.
Yeah,
they're asleep on Saturn in the pods. The real humans. Yeah, you're in a pod on Saturn, you're asleep. But Cain was sent to the land of Nod, and he was sent to the land of Nod to propagate the race for the demiurge's children, for Satan's children. The murderer of the Bible, was sent here to bring about the race of people to father all the children for the dark side. That's where it all kicked off. But he actually, people want you to think that Seth was the good side. Well, he was, but and they're saying that like Noah was the perpetuator of all the best people. But Noah was on the dark side. Noah was a descendant of Cain, but that's not what they tell you. Because it's all about face.
Interesting.
But yeah, land of Nod, it's in the Bible. You ask it, it says that that Cain was sent east of Eden, which is Saturn, to the land of Nod. Well, there's no Eden on Earth. They say it's somewhere, there is some equivalent in, Iraq or whatever. But the Eden they're talking about in the Bible is that Eden to the land of Nod. The land of Nod is where everybody's asleep. That's it.
So you were saying you think 2040, you've got this kind of date in mind that time is going to end.
Well, that's where it would be if there was no intervention. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got the numbers. You basically. I mean, a lot of it was from archaics. Yeah. But
yes.
But I worked it out. I actually did all the calculations with all the dates, and the dates he's giving seem to be correct according to the historical record, and it takes you to 2040. But it says in the Bible, and if it was not for the days being shortened, man would have suffered greatly. So the days are being shortened. It's been. Do you remember when you was at school and you got 6 weeks holiday? It was like a year. The summer holiday went on forever.
I know it was.
And now a year it's just like that. The perception of a year is just going. So I think time is being shortened now. So a year ain't really a year. It's less.
And it's funny that because I have this conversation quite a lot with my missus. Within a blink of an eye, I'm back in bed. It's like the day's gone, I'm back in bed. And I just thought maybe it's because I'm getting older, and time just feels that way. But there's clear, from my experience, as absolutely those summer holidays, they lasted forever and a day. And now it's you blink your eye and it's Christmas all over again.
Well, well, think about it. COVID is so fresh in my mind when all that kicked off. But it was 4.5 years ago.
I know.
4.5 years. Well, it doesn't feel like. Does it feel like that to you? 4.5 years. It's just fresh in your mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where's that gone? It's just gone, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So time is.
Well, if that's the case, Lawrence,
speed it up.
2040 is going to be with us very quickly if that's the case. I mean, it's 2024
Well, yeah,
now.
I can't see this going beyond 2030. And then I don't know where we're going to end up. And all I know is I'm not getting on them spaceships that are going to be coming down. It's like Project Bluebeam that everybody talks about. Well, yeah, Project Bluebeam is like it's reverse speak. They put it out there so that people would think like it's been secretly released by some whistleblower, and then they murdered him apparently to make it more realistic. Yeah, that you're going to be seeing things in the sky that are holograms, but they're not. They're going to be real. But most of the truth community, I say, no, I'm not believing that. It's a hologram. It's not going to be Jesus anyway. But because the man isn't going to come back, but the spirit may come back to take his children home. You're with his children. But Project Bluebeam, well, if you see something in the sky, it's not a hologram. It's going to be real. But that's not. You tell that to any of the other truthers, and they'll say, "Oh, no, you made a big mistake there." I've read all Project Bluebeam, all about it. But everything's controlled. If they wanted to keep something a secret, they've got no problems keeping it a secret. But when they put it out there, it's for a reason.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
And the reason is they want you to latch onto it. Yeah, and believe in it.
Yeah, we're very emotional beings, though, aren't we? We're easily manipulated with our emotions. That's the thing, and hence why
we're very easy to manipulate. Yeah, and it's like this Donald Trump thing. I mean, I've been watching all these things now. Everything on the news is a lot, apart from the sports results, and they're manipulated as well. Everything on the news is a lie. It's as simple as that. Everything they tell you,
I know. There's plenty of Pied Pipers around, that's for sure.
So anybody who's got a big channel, they only get a big channel because they, anybody who's really good, and they start getting somewhere, they get shut down. They don't get to have a big channel. They get shut down because people can do that. They can shut you down for whatever. You start telling the truth, the sorts of truth they don't want out there, they're going to shut you down. So it is, unless they, you may get the odd one, and they might have one person out there who's putting stuff out there, and it's convenient for them to put it out because they want it out there. They want the truth to come out, so it brings everything down because they want to bring all the governments of the world down, which is what they can't bring in the one world government until all the world governments are discredited as being totally incompetent. Can they? They've got to be taken down. And all your generals, and they've got to be deemed to be incompetent, and everything else. And the church leaders, they've all got, they're all going down, all of them, so they can bring in the one world version. And that's why all your governments are screwing up with stupid policies all the time. So nobody's happy.
Just to close this amazing chat off, you've obviously thought very long and hard about this. You've done your research. You obviously feel that this is what's happening. That there's an end of time. What's your how do you see it happening? Do you see it just happening and then it ends, or do you think there's a big event like the Phoenix event as archaics talk about, don't you?
I'll just come to that in a minute. Anne. Let me just tell you something else. So
yeah,
Earth is a time machine. Yeah.
Okay.
You've got the arc tick, the tick of the arc, and you've got the ant arc tick, the tick of the ant heart. Yeah, and basically when they turn around the other way, that's probably when the end. It's like an hourglass, and it turns round. Yeah, and it starts from the other side. And then if you look at how they navigate at sea, they use longitude and latitude, don't they?
Yeah.
Distance. So distance at sea, at least, how is it measured? It's measured in time, because it's measured in latitude is measured in minutes and seconds. The fractions of latitude are minutes and seconds. Well, why would they measure distance in time? Because it is time. Time is distances. It's all the same stuff. So, yeah, how is it going to end? Yeah. Well, timetable of events, there's going to be a greater push towards the metaverse, more technology, more AI. You may even get AI. Well, you've already got it with the actors now. You may even get AI politicians. Howdy mentioned it the other day. You know, politicians die and they say, well, we've got all these details. You know, we're going to put the AI version out of it. It's no different. It's going to exact it in the same way. People say, well, it's logical, you know, and then they'll put him in power and they'll say, oh, right, yeah. So, you know, so AI is going to get more and more and more and more and more. People are going to leave their homes less and less and less and be totally dependent on technology. You know, when the very old people now have died out and you've got a whole generation of people who are tech savvy, yeah, and they're dependent on their devices, and they all are. When you go out, you see everybody's, virtually even the poor people who ain't got 2 halfpennies to ever, they've got an iPhone. No, everybody's got one. You know, and then what will happen is, you know, everybody's going to be impoverished. You're going to have your natural disasters. You're going to have the disease. You're going to have the famine, the food shortages, desperation. You know, nowhere to live. And then along come the saviors. The spaceships come down. People are herded towards them, and you get to go and have a look round and see the technology, and they'll sell you the dream, and that's where the people go. And then this earth will finally come to an end, and some people, you know, will go back to the true light, and some people may go back to the start of time and do it all again and do the deja vu and live all the lives they lived before and all the parallel lives they lived before. But when they go back, it's going to be downgraded still. You know, right. That's how I see it. There's 3 possibilities. You get to go home. That's the ultimate aim. Yeah, go back to where you came from before you entered here. Sign up for the metaverse. Fate worse than hell. You get lots of, you know, powers and stuff like that, but you're just effectively a machine, highly intelligent machine. You know, you're semi-AI, you become semi-AI, or you get to go and do it all again, and you can live another 1,000 years, yeah, in a day. You go and do this life for another day. Seems like 1,000 years, but it's only a day. Do it all again, and then next time, you know, you might be here. Me and you might be having this same conversation in 1,000 years again, totally oblivious that we've had this conversation.
And to try and end on a positive, because that don't sound like we've got much to look forward to. So what does home look like to you then? What do you think going back to the source, the essence, is really about then? What is it?
Well, yeah, that is the big question, isn't it? Because we've had our memories wiped. And we won't be able to go straight back anyway. We're probably going to have to go to some intermediate zone to be to get some education as to how life is in a world where you're immortal and you've got immense powers, and you know you need to be careful what you're doing. You know, because even Tony Sayers will tell you that in the Matrix, in the higher levels of the Matrix, thoughts become things instantly.
Yeah.
But outside that, then, you know, thoughts become things, but on a much bigger scale, and you have a lot more power because, you know, we're functioning on a tiny fraction of our potential at the moment, you know. we're quite dim compared to our true intelligence. So yeah, so you're looking at, for me, you're looking at 2030, and and it's funny that I won't be here to unless we're all going back to the same place. There may be a whole gang of us, in this intermediate zone on the periphery of the matrix, all there getting debriefed and getting educated to go back into the Watson. Well, that would be a great scenario, and we may get some intermediate bodies, that are like these, but they're not as dense.
Yeah.
Because we have got bodies just the same as these in your dreams, and they feel as real as these do, but it's a less dense world.
Yeah, good point.
So it may be that we retain some kind of etheric body or astral body, and we get debriefed. But going home, what peace of mind is that to know that you don't need food, you don't need shelter. You're an eternal being. You're a creator God, and you can do anything. The world is literally your oyster, and you wouldn't want to be coming back here, would you? Well, some people might say, "I want to go back to Earth. I want some," because out there, there is no limitation on your power. Here, we are heavily limited as to what we can do. But you notice all the athletes of the world. They're all the children of the demiurge, all of them, all your serious footballers, athletes, tennis players. You don't get that good naturally. They are being gifted these skills, same as we musicians. Anybody who's supremely talented like that, they're working for the dark side. There may be a few exceptions, but I would say in the main that's the case. Certainly in the music industry, because they're all signaling their allegiance to the dark side anyway, aren't they? You look at things like what's his name, Led Zeppelin. They're so obviously, because they're into Aleister Crowley. And then if you want a great album, I actually bought one for £3. You can go online on eBay and buy the Eagles Farewell Tour from Melbourne. Fabulous album. They play the songs there better than they've ever played them. And what's his name? I forget the guy, one of the guitarists. He was talking about their satanic period.
Right.
Talking about Hotel California, which is all about trying to escape the matrix, but not being able to check out. Every line of that word you can interpret it to mean that leaving this world and eventually coming back. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Well, that passage may be the passage, to the true light, or the passage back to the earth. They've gone from the between lives area to the passage back to the life that they had. You can interpret that in so many different ways, but the whole thing is satanic. That's very beautiful, great song, beautiful music, beautiful guitar music. One of my favorite tunes. If I was on a desert island, I would be taking that with me. I'd take "Shine on You, Crazy Diamond." I play that most weeks because I just love the song. But I won't be playing any of the music that this shower that are in the charts today. It's just really, people go to Glastonbury, and they're so desperate there, they wheel out people in their 80s because there's no good music from the young people.
That's true.
And they pay a fortune to go and roll around in the mud, to listen to total crap music. There's some good bits, but it's could you imagine going to the Isle of Wight in 1970 when you get the list of all these people that are playing, all amazing artists, all of them, to what you've got today, money couldn't buy tickets to that, could it? You look at some of the festivals they had in the 60s, like that one where was that one in America? I forget where it was, but everybody was there, and it didn't cost much to go. Those were the days, when you could go just turn up and pitch a tent.
Different world, Lawrence.
I went to a pop concert in 1973 in the Lake District. It was 50 pence to get in, and you could pitch your tent up for free. And I can remember two of the bands over there. There's a band called Bitch, and a band called Green Slade. Those are the only two I can remember. But now they want £1,000, £1,000, and you need £1,000 spending money to go to Glastonbury, don't you? Just to rough it, ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, Lawrence, I think the mission continues in purgatory, really, to find our personal.
Events are going to move ahead, and time will tell what's going to happen. But we just put yourself in your bubble. You're doing all right, and you're in your nice little bubble, and you've got faith that things are going to work out for you. You just don't get involved with the shit that's going on, because you can't change it. You can only look after yourself.
I agree with that.
And you will.
Yeah, I agree.
Go and do some more walks and have a chat. It makes you feel good. If you walk through trees, it makes you feel great.
Because the
trees are, they know you're there. They can feel your energy.
Yeah.
And they make you feel. They're great for de-stressing.
I totally agree with you, Lawrence.
All right, Lawrence, nice to chat with you again.
It's been amazing to chat to you.
See, the time flies in, doesn't it? It's only been 10 minutes and we've had 2 hours.
It's been great chatting to you.
We'll do later.
We'll do it again soon, eh?
All right, buddy. Take it easy.
You take care, Lawrence. Thank you so much.
See you later, mate.
Bye, mate. Bye-bye.
See you, buddy.